Hi guys, and welcome to the buyer's guide for the Nissan LEAF. This is for this shape, the 24 and 30 kilowatt hour version. Now we'll also include a checklist because you can't buy this new anymore, which means you have to buy it used, and not everybody gives you what you should have when you buy the LEAF. Now I've just said that the LEAF comes in the 24 and 30 kilowatt hour versions, but the actual usable battery capacity isn't that at all. Nissan have been a little bit naughty on this one. In reality, the usable battery capacity of the 24 is around 21.5, I think it's 21.4, and the 30 kilowatt hour LEAF has around 27.34 of usable battery capacity as well. So if you're doing any calculations, use those, not 24 and 30. And we might as well mention range because, quite frankly, that's the biggest thing when it comes to electric cars. The 24 has about 75 to 85 miles of range, and the 30 has about 100-110 miles of range. In winter, knock about 10% off those figures, or maybe 15 if it's really below zero. Now, of course, the biggest thing that affects range is your driving style. If you drive like a lunatic, of course you're going to get less than the stated range. If you drive economically, you'll get more. For example, I've had both the 24 and the 30 kilowatt hour LEAF, and in this 30, for example, in a recent video, I've got just over 150 miles off a single charge, and that's predominantly motorway driving. So ultimately, how you drive has the biggest effect, which quite frankly shouldn't come as a surprise to you because that's the same in any car. The LEAF came out in 2011 in the UK and had a bit of a refresh in 2013. Now, I'm not going to bore you with all the technical details of the differences between the Generation 1 and Generation 2, as I'll call them, but there are two differences that I do think you need to be made aware of. Now, one of the main differences between the Gen 1 and Gen 2 is that in the Generation 1 there was only one trim level. The Generation 2 has three trim levels, which are the Vizier as the base model, the Centre as the mid-range model, and the Techno as the top of the range model. The Generation 1 basically had just a single trim level with pretty much everything on it. Now, if you're looking at a 2013 Nissan LEAF, you could be looking at a Generation 1 or a Generation 2, and outwardly they look almost identical. So although there are several visual clues, I'm just going to give you two which make it very easy to spot whether it is a Generation 1 or a Generation 2. Now, I've changed the angle, as you can see on the camera, so you can see a broader view of the car. Here is a little cubbyhole. I have a Generation 2 car. This is basically just for coins and various other knickknacks. If the handbrake is in this position here, where I have a little cubbyhole, it is a Generation 1. I will put a picture up on the screen so you can see what I mean. In the Gen 2, the handbrake isn't near your hand at all, it's actually a foot handbrake. It's next to the brake pedal. So if the handbrake is next to the brake pedal, it's a Generation 2. If it's here, it's a Generation 1. And now we're back to the normal angle. That was the easy internal clue on whether it's a Gen 1 or Gen 2. There is an easy external clue as to whether it's a Gen 1 and Gen 2 as well. Now if I press this button here, which opens the charge flap, you can see here there is a light inside the charging flap bay. I'm not entirely sure what it's called, if I'm honest. This is a Generation 2 car. It has a light. If you're looking at a Generation 1 car, there will be no light here, which means you can never figure out where you're plugging the car in if it's pitch black. So that is the easy way to spot whether it's a Gen 1, Gen 2. If there's a light, Gen 2. If there's no light, Gen 1. Now, the second difference, which for me is the most important between the 1 and 2, is the heater. And the Generation 1 has an older style heater. It basically is like a 2-bar fire. It consumes a fair bit of energy. If, for example, you had 75-80 miles of range, you could easily knock that down to 55-60 in the depths of winter, especially in the UK. Now, when the Generation 2 came out, they introduced a new style heat pump, which was far more efficient, and instead of losing 20-30 miles in winter, you'd only lose about 5, maybe 10 tops if it was cold enough. Now, Nissan have made this slightly complicated. The Generation 1 comes with the old heater. That is quite straightforward. However, the Generation 2 Vizier, which is the base spec model, still also comes with the old style heater. The Centre and Techno models, which are the mid and top range models, come with the new style heat pump. So just to reiterate, if it's a Generation 1 or a Vizier model, it comes with the old style heater. Any Centre or Techno model come with the new heat pump. This, for me, is the big enough difference to always plumb for the Centre or Techno. Now onto the charging speeds of the LEAF. which is slightly more complicated than you think, so please do pay attention on this one. Now, all Leafs you'll ever come across in the UK can rapid charge, so you don't have to worry about the model or the differences between any version. They can all rapid charge. The rapid charging is the charge points that you would see at service areas, IKEAs, that sort of thing. The big ones with a massive plug, basically. They take about half an hour to get you back up to about 80–90%. That is called rapid charging. Fast charging is the slightly more complicated one. A fast charger is pretty much what you would have at home. You'll see them in a lot of car parks. Asda, for example, use fast chargers typically. Now, the fast charging port on the Leaf can charge at 3.3 kilowatts. There was an optional extra which you could spec on any Leaf, which made it a 6.6 kilowatt charge option. Now, for me, the 6.6 is a far more flexible car because it means you can charge in around 4 hours instead of 8 at home. It also tends to command a bit of a premium in the used market because people tend to look for the 6.6 option. Now, there is literally only one way of finding out whether a car has got a 3.3 or 6.6 charging option, and for that we need to look at the dashboard. Just to the right of the steering wheel is this button, and basically I want you to press that until you see this come up. As you can see here, it says 6.6 and 3 kilowatt. If yours only says 3 kilowatt on this display, you do not have the 6.6 charging option. This car does, which is why it gives you both options. This is the easiest and quite frankly probably the only way to tell whether you got a 6.6 on a car or not. You need to see both figures on this screen. Now, if you have the right cable, you can also charge from the standard 3-pin plug socket, which basically means that anywhere with a plug socket you can make into a charging station. It does take over 12 hours, but if you get stuck, or if you're at a B&B, or if you're at work, you can just use a normal plug socket and you're back up to full charge. Now, to try and get rid of a few myths out there, this car, like any other normal petrol or diesel car, has a standard 12-volt battery. That basically takes care of the car's operations, the lights, the headlights, the horn, the alarm, all the kind of standard ancillary type stuff. The main drive battery is only affected if you use the heater or air conditioning. Everything else is taken care of with the 12-volt battery. So no, you don't lose range if you turn your headlights on. The 12-volt battery is charged when you plug the car in. If the 12-volt battery drops below a certain point and you're not plugged in, then the main drive battery will top up the 12-volt battery. This is quite rare, but it does happen. So I guess then it does affect range. So the answer to the question is no, you do not turn your lights off just to get extra range. And even if you did, we're talking about 2 feet. So let's get rid of that urban myth right now. Now I want to talk about the flex cars, or the battery leased Leafs. Basically, a flex car is where you buy a car but you don't buy the battery. So let's for example say that you bought a car for £20,000 and it was all inclusive. You have the battery, the car, it's just like a normal purchase. Now imagine you could buy that same car for £15,000 but you leased the battery. So you're saving a substantial portion on the list price, but you'll be paying about £80 a month to lease the battery. So you'd be paying roughly £1,000 a year in battery lease payments, but you'll have saved 4 or 5 on the initial purchase. The original idea of this was because people didn't really trust batteries, so they thought, oh well, if it's leased, people don't have to worry about that, because if the battery ever degrades past a certain point, it will get replaced regardless of the age of the car. This, however, has proved quite unpopular, especially on the used market, and now, thankfully, Nissan have made it so you can buy a flex car and actually purchase the lease from them, so you can turn a flex car into a fully owned battery car. I personally do not see the point of a flex car, a leased battery scheme, especially in the used market. Bear in mind that the 24 kWh Leaf comes with a 5-year 60,000 mile warranty on the battery, and the 30 kWh Leaf comes with an 8-year 100,000 miles warranty on the battery. It seems pointless paying nearly £1,000 a year when you've got an 8-year warranty. Now if you're looking online or wherever on the used car market and see a Leaf which seems to be cheaper than it should be for its age, it probably means it's a battery lease car. I personally wouldn't ever buy a leased car unless I planned on keeping it for about 15 years. Even then, the amount you would spend on the lease would far outweigh any refurbishment costs. So for me, stay away from them and just buy battery owned cars. Now when I talk about electric cars, the biggest thing people mention, typically those that have never even sat in one, are that you need to replace the batteries every 5 years and it costs £5,000. This is about as far wrong as you can get and is total rubbish, and it just doesn't exist. It came from a very early Top Gear episode, which I enjoy, by the way, and I'm afraid it's just not true. For one, you get a 5-year warranty on the 24 and an 8-year warranty on the 30, so that part's not true. And two, there isn't just a battery in an electric car. There are many batteries in this car right now. So if you have, say, I don't know, 10% battery degradation, that means that 10% of the cells might have an issue. You do not have to replace the entire battery, especially after 5 years. You would only replace or refurbish the specific cells that have an issue. So this £5 over 5 years thing is just get it out of your head. It doesn't exist. There are entire fleets, loads of Nissan LEAF taxis out there with up to 200,000 miles on them, and they still have above 80% battery health. That doesn't mean you have to replace the battery. That means you could refurbish it if you wish, or you could exchange the battery for a refurbished one. The cost of that is probably about £2,500. Now, although that seems a lot, you do not have to do it. If a car degrades, you just have less range. If a normal petrol or diesel car has a substantial fault with its engine, you can't use it at all. Bear in mind that typically most of these taxis that have done 150, 200,000 miles have only ever replaced brake pads. There is practically no maintenance on them. How many ICE cars do you come across with upwards of 200,000 miles on them where they've had almost no maintenance, no cam belts, no fan belts, no oil changes, no turbo problems, any of that? The price of a battery refurbishment might be high, but ultimately you will probably never ever see it in the life of the car. If there is a manufacturing fault, it would be done under the 5 or 8 year warranty. So if we can, let's put this battery myth away. It doesn't exist. Of course they degrade, everything degrades. You get a brand new diesel, it will do further on a full tank than an older diesel would. Just to give you an idea, when I last checked my battery health on about 21,000 miles, I think it was, I had just under 99% battery health. That's after just over 20,000 miles. And when taxis are buying fleets of them, it kind of speaks volumes for me.
Now onto the checklist of what you should get when you buy a used Nissan LEAF. The first one is quite straightforward. It's the same as every other car, the locking wheel nut. This is something you don't want to be caught without if you have a puncture. The second thing is the cables that you get with the LEAF. This cable here is the fast Type 2 charging cable. It's what you'll typically use at something like Asda supermarket, car park, that type of thing. All Nissan LEAFs should come with this cable. If it doesn't, ask why and adjust the price accordingly, but it certainly should do because every LEAF came with one. The next cable is the 3-pin plug, or granny cable as it's referred to. This is actually really useful, especially when you're visiting someone that doesn't have a charger, or you're camping, a B&B. Basically it turns any premises, any residential or commercial premises into a charging point because you can just use a normal plug socket. Now this isn't standard with all Nissan LEAFs. It comes with the optional extra of the 6.6 charger. So if the LEAF you're looking at has the 6.6 charging option, it should come with that 3-pin plug cable. That thing is nearly £350 from Nissan. It's a very expensive cable, which means a lot of people tend to leave it to one side when they pass the car on so they can stick it on eBay and get a couple £100 extra. So make sure that is included if your car has the 6.6 option. If you're buying a LEAF from a non-Nissan dealer, it's probably worth putting aside £100, £150 for the Nissan Connect app. Basically, the app lets you connect to the car to find out what charge it's on, turn the climate control on remotely, which is extremely useful in winter, and various other things like that. Now, if it's a used car, you're going to have to get the telematics unit reset because it will be connected to somebody else's account. If the car's coming from a Nissan dealer, this should be part of the handover. Make sure you don't leave that Nissan dealership until that has been done. If you're buying the car privately or from an independent dealer, you will have to take it to Nissan to get them to reset this unit. That way it can then connect to your Nissan Connect account so you can use the app from then on and the other person can't. Now if you think about it, as you can track a LEAF using the app, if it's still connected to the previous owner's account, they can track what you're doing. So you either need to get the person selling you it to reset it before you buy the car, or expect a trip very quickly after you do buy it to a Nissan dealer to then get it reset. Just so you can see that little symbol there, which is basically like a car with a phone signal, that means it's connected to Nissan services. That is what needs to be reset between different owners. Now, one of the last things that you need to check is the satellite navigation. Now basically there is an SD card in the car which runs the maps for the sat-nav. If that SD card's missing, you cannot use the sat-nav. Some people have been known to take that SD card out of the car, again to probably flog it on eBay, because they're quite expensive, I think around £150, and that's just a guess. So make sure every single Leaf that you look at, the sat-nav works and the SD card is installed. It's very easy to check if the SD card is actually installed, because the sat-nav will say no SD card when you click on it. So if you are looking at a Leaf, click on the sat-nav and make sure it works. That way you'll know the SD card is in place. Again, just to show you, if I press that button, you can see the flap here, which is basically the SD card for the sat-nav. Not inexpensive, this one, but again, worth checking to see if it exists. In the boot, in the bottom corner, there is a little flap that you can open. Basically take this flap off, and you can see there you've got a tyre pressure gauge / air pump, and you've also got everything you need to change the tyre. So make sure the tyre pressure gauge and everything in here is included. Whilst I'm here, I might as well also show you how to spot the difference between a 24 and a 30 kilowatt hour Leaf, because there are no visual clues at all, and other than the V5, this is the only way to find out. As you can see here, my car weighs 1970 kilograms. This is the 30 kilowatt hour Leaf. If it said 1945 kilograms, it would be a 24. So that's how you tell the difference. If it's 1945, it's a 24 kilowatt hour. If it's 1970, it's a 30 kilowatt hour.
Now if you are thinking about buying one of these, the best thing I would suggest to do is, if it's not from a Nissan dealer, is to take it to a Nissan dealership. I've just rung them, and for £90 they will do a full health check on the car, including a battery health check. That for me is worth every penny. It just gives you a bit of peace of mind as to what states the car in when you're buying it. To make sure you don't miss any other videos on the Leaf or electric cars in general, please click the subscribe button in my channel. That way you won't miss out, because it's just that good. And if you do end up getting a Leaf, just enjoy it. I have had two, I have not had a single issue with either of them. Not a warranty problem, not even a single rattle. So I can't fault it enough on build quality. The looks are a little subjective, even I would agree to that one. But if you do get one, enjoy it, and as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.